They came to Jericho. As he and his disciples and a large crowd were leaving Jericho, Bartimaeus, son of Timaeus, a blind beggar, was sitting by the roadside. When he heard that it was Jesus of Nazareth, he began to shout out and say, "Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me." Many sternly ordered him to be quiet, but he cried out even more loudly, "Son of David, have mercy on me." Jesus stood still and said, "Call him here." And they called the blind man, saying to him, "Take heart, get up. He is calling you." So throwing off his cloak, he sprang up and came to Jesus. Then Jesus said to him, "What do you want me to do for you?" The blind man said to him, "My teacher, let me see again." Jesus said to him, "Go, your faith has made you well." Immediately he regained his sight and followed the way. So spiritual healing allows us to see again, it would seem, according to the gospel story today. Today's account of blind Bartimaeus seeing again offers us an illustration of spiritual healing as happening in the moments when we remember ourselves and come home to our true selves, to our soul. The moments when we remember who we truly are. What has you cut off from your true self? What ailment troubles you so deeply in your soul that it obscures your very vision, your ability to see? I think of the characters of the Lost Souls in the movie Soul. Has anyone seen Soul, the movie? A few of us. Well, the lost souls portrayed in the movie Soul are split in half, and their soul is wandering in the astral plane somewhere else, while their bodies here on earth struggle to break free of whatever has consumed their attention or tormented them in their innermost being. For some, it might be addiction or obsession or fear that has them living in a diminished state, that has us living in a diminished state, wrapped in the shadow of our pain. Perhaps it's a shame or grief so heavy that you can only see the shame or the grief, and it's so terrible you don't even want to open your eyes. It's in these moments of spiritual overwhelm that we long to see again, that we long to be made whole again, to see ourselves as complete again. It's in moments such as these that we need to see. When I think of seeing again as this spiritual homecoming, as the healing that comes from remembering who and what we truly are and where we come from. I think of a journey that I mentioned to you to the Holy Well that, according to legend, has healing powers. For years, I had wanted to make this journey to the healing well, the well of the Cailleach, the ancient mother tucked into the hills around the cliffs of Moher on the west coast of Ireland. And trees, when I arrived, trees festooned with ribbons and rosary beads and Bridget crosses, representing prayers to the ancestors and spirits of place and saints and God, surrounded the well. The flowing waters below seemed to echo back all the stories of healing miracles and hopes poured into the well over centuries, all the memories. Arriving at the well, I followed the custom of circling the trees surrounding the well while slowly making the descent into the round, womb-like cavern tucked into the earth. Inside, the rush and trickle of water sing with the shafts of light carving their way through the stone and ancient landscape. Having come all this way, I wasn't going to not drink the actual water. After all, I wanted the healing. So I reached out my hands and I let the splash of the water fill my hands, dribbling out, spilling everywhere, and I let it touch my lips. And I drank, and immediately I experienced it. Ugh! Ah! No sooner had I drank than I had been filled with a revulsion for the worst tasting liquid I think I've ever consumed in my life. I almost spat out the healing water. It was a unique culinary blend of sheep manure, various metals perhaps, and construction chemicals, probably from the project happening up the road from the well. For a moment, the well, also my expectations of sacredness and healing were demystified. And I sat there rather dejected. But I continued to sit praying by the pool of water. The pool of water before me, maybe I needed a bit of alone time, or a moment to pause and be still, like the children were saying. I began to feel held in the equanimous peace of the sacred space. And as I gazed at the water and allowed the sound of the rush of the water to fill my soul, I began to notice the light reflected on the water. On the walls and shelves of the well hang pictures and memory cards of sick relatives or loved ones who had passed, all the people whose loved ones had prayed for them, glistening, dancing in the water before me, along with flickering candles and sunlight. In the water, I saw all of their faces looking back at me. And in the water, I saw my face among them, and the statues of saints, and the Sacred Heart of Christ looking back to me as a reflection in the water. Looking at the water, I could see myself in that light, in that deep peace, in that sacred place, and that sacred place, that light, that deep peace, reflecting the truest part of me, forever now a part of me, dwelling within my heart. Perhaps healing isn't about the end of suffering, but finding the point of peace and wholeness within it. and touching the peace of the Spirit that outlives it. I left the well with these new eyes. Looking into the well felt like seeing again, gazing at this ancient water of life, this ancient water of life that our tradition tells us that God hovers over. Scripture says on the morning of creation, God hovered over the surface of the water. On the morning of creation, God himself gazed into a well, a holy well, and saw all of us. Scripture tells us that holy wisdom saw their reflection in the water, and that Jesus, looking deeply into his own soul, looked upon living water. Even Bartimaeus gains his sight. Even before Bartimaeus gains his sight, he sees Jesus' soul. He gazes into Jesus' soul. He looks at this well of living water, and it allows him to see again. Jesus invites us to look at his way, his truth, his life. Jesus invites us to look at his soul and see our reflection in his beautiful heart, that well of living water. This is how we see again. This is what Bartimaeus saw in the water in today's gospel. This is the faith that allowed blind Bartimaeus to see again. Our poor, beleaguered brother Bartimaeus, weighed down by shame and oppression, cries out to Jesus, "My teacher, let me see again." And we have to remember that the people and the society around Bartimaeus were the ones who, in Jesus' eyes, were not seeing. The people in Bartimaeus' time wouldn't have even seen or noticed Bartimaeus. He would have been invisible to them. They would have held the popular belief at the time that the blind were cursed by God. People would have considered Bartimaeus' blindness as a sort of punishment or a sentence, perhaps even for something he didn't even do, perhaps for something his ancestors did. They would have believed his blindness, his poverty, his suffering as being the justification to not see him. And this is how God willed it to be, they would have believed. Blinded by a corrupt religious dogma, they would have treated Bartimaeus like garbage, if they even noticed him at all. And this is why they tell him to be quiet when he cries out to Jesus. "Son of David, have mercy on me." Because how dare he even speak? How dare the likes of him even speak? Interestingly enough, we can notice in today's gospel how even before Bartimaeus gains his sight, he sees this Jesus. He understands and sees Jesus' soul. Other folks aren't seeing Jesus. Even the disciples, really, at times, aren't seeing Jesus. Bartimaeus hears of this new rabbi bringing a new understanding, a new teaching, and a new message of the children, and all those pushed to the bottom castes, and all those treated as cursed and disposable as being the greatest in the soon coming, newly restored kingdom of God. And Bartimaeus believes it. And this message gives him faith, this new faith. And so immediately when Bartimaeus says to Jesus, "Teacher, let me see again," Jesus does not respond, "I healed you." Jesus' response really amounts to him saying, "I see that you see me, and I see you too, brother." Jesus does not say, "I healed you." He says to Bartimaeus, "Your faith has made you well." It was his faith that healed him, and it's really the faith of the blind man that heals all of us. He gains his sight by the new faith that Jesus brings. And we can imagine him seeing again, looking into the eyes of Jesus, those eyes reflecting back all humanity. We can imagine Bartimaeus seeing for the first time, looking into those eyes, seeing his own reflection in those eyes, those pools of living water. It must have been like looking into a deep well, seeing himself again in those eyes. He remembered who he truly was. In those eyes, he saw not someone worthless and cursed, but a child of God. In those eyes, he saw the part of himself that remains forever whole and complete, free of suffering and all the filth of the violent ignorance and hate and fear all around him and around us. In those eyes, he saw his true reflection. He saw the life in which his whole being truly comes alive and the life within his heart that will never die. He saw his reflection in those eyes. He saw love. He saw God. Maybe the deepest and truest healing is learning to see again in this way, remembering our soul held in God, seeing God reflected in our soul. This is what Jesus gives to us. Maybe we shirk the possibility of things like miracles and healing. Perhaps even the concept provokes us. But maybe we can open our hearts just enough to the possibility of seeing what Bartimaeus saw. Maybe we can help each other find the way to the well where we can remember who we are, where we gaze into the pool of living water and see our eternal home, the true life of our soul, and our true reflection. Amen. Healing waters over you, all around you, and within you. May your soul be like a clear mirror, a deep well, reflecting the beauty and the eternal love of the Spirit. And may that light cleanse and refresh every cell of your being. And may you know that that light is our eternal life, always giving us strength to heal and mend the world. Amen.